Alright, Mr. Bond, we're going to be doing a simple word association. So, whatever word that comes to mind whenever I mention these words, please say them as quickly as possible. Gun.
Short.
Agent.
Provocative.
Heart.
Target.
Bird.
Sky.
Bitch. Sunlight.
Swim.
Moonlight.
Art.
Murder.
Employment.
Country.
England.
Skyfall. Skyfall.
Overrated. Skyfall, released in 2012 and is directed by Sam Mendes, who's behind such films like American Beauty, Road to Perdition, Spectre, and 1917. And of course, this film is starring Daniel Craig. It is the 23rd James Bond film out there, and it's also starring returning Judi Dench and new faces of Javier Bardem and Ralph Fiennes. James Bond is mistakenly shot during a motorcycle chase in Istanbul, where Bond was trying to apprehend a terrorist who had gained access to the list of names of all the secret agents in the world and all of their undercover operatives. However, months later, the MI6 is getting threats that this list will be released by a familiar face. So now James Bond needs to come out of retirement and resurrect himself in order to take down this former spy turned evil bad guy. Oh, Skyfall, I remember back when you were coming out and everyone was hailing you as the greatest Bond movie to ever be released. And after watching you, I came out of the theater thinking, the best? Not even close, but definitely not the worst. Just somewhere in the middle there. I honestly think that this movie suffered, for me anyway, from overhyping. Everyone talked about how this is the greatest Bond movie ever made. It's better than Casino Royale. I'm a big mark for Casino Royale. I think Eva Green, whenever she's on screen, I'm definitely on board. All the parkour, the poker game. I love that movie. When I think of James Bond, it's Casino Royale and everything in it. This one has a different take on the character of James Bond. They approach him as this old man who should have retired many, many years ago, but is still going strong. Someone in their 40s or 50s who is kind of sticking around, but this game, the spy game, is all for the younger crowd. It's really what this film dives into, is this idea of, hey, do you know when you are past your prime? Do you know when you should call it quits? Are you going to die a hero, or are you going to live long enough to see yourself become the villain type thing? Which led me to some very confusing aspects about this, because this film at many times seemed very meta. There were so many jokes and lines and artifacts in this movie that were playing homepage to previous Bond films. Lines like, oh, this is for your eyes only, or lines like, oh, what do you expect, an exploding pen? I am invincible! And then we have the famous BMW from Goldfinger, right? That's a BMW? I don't know cars. It is not a BMW. It is an Aston Martin DB5. Because I know that. But it had all of these strange callbacks to previous Bond films, so I'm thinking, okay, this James Bond that Daniel Craig is playing, is he the Bond that's been here the whole time? I always thought of James Bond as a character that just adapts for the ages. These movies have no continuity to it. It's just, hey, here's the character of James Bond, you know, let's put him back in the 60s. Or, hey, let's flash forward to 2050. We can put James Bond there. It's just one of those out-of-time characters. I always thought he was like that, but with all these callbacks, is this the same James Bond from the previous one? And I couldn't get my head out of thinking that the entire time. And I think that was my problem with this movie. Watching it for the first time and then watching it the other times after that is, I think too much while watching this movie. So I'm thinking about all of these callbacks, and then I'm also thinking about Javier Bardem's plan that he has with this train, you know, exploding a hole, and then the train comes down, as if he was expecting to be followed by James Bond. Because if he wasn't, he wouldn't have had to do that. Just set the explosive there. And then knowing all, like, the traffic signals, I was just thinking too much during this. Which, it's James Bond. You're not supposed to think about it. You're supposed to sit down and have a great time with this spy romp. It's probably all Casino Royale's fault, just because that one was done in such a realistic tone that all the ones preceding it, and starring Daniel Craig, I'm looking to have that realistic tone in there, so when we get all of these strange schemes that are kind of far-fetched, I start going, whoa, what's going on? What James Bond are we dealing with? This feels more like Roger Moore Bond. The guy went into space and fought Christopher Walken. You're not supposed to think in these movies. However, I feel right now all I'm doing is criticizing it. This movie has some masterfully and spectacular, just beautiful aspects to it. The cinematographer of this movie is Roger Deakins, who is probably the greatest cinematographer to ever live, and I love that man so much because he knows how to do silhouettes. That's how we're introduced to Bond in this movie. One silhouette, and it's just the person in a suit. You know it's a person in the suit, but watching somehow this guy knows how to take this just basic silhouette of a guy in a suit, and we know as the audience, that's James Bond. I know who that is. As he approaches the camera, all of a sudden this little tiny light just highlights his eyes. Love it! And we get an entire fight scene all done in silhouette. Actually, we get several fight scenes with silhouettes. Anytime there's a silhouette on screen, you're gonna make me happy. I love silhouettes. Silhouettes are my favorite. If I could just have like all silhouette art in my house, or if I just like read silhouette comics, I'm so happy. And we get another solid performance from Daniel Craig as James Bond. The one before this, which was Quantum of Solace, was kind of one of those James Bond movies that, hey, it's here, just kind of moving along and keeping this character kind of in the forefront of pop culture. But I honestly couldn't tell you like who the villain was, or like what there was oil and a desert. That is all I remember from that movie. So it's nice to see him bounce back with something that's very meaty here. They give him a lot to do and give him an obstacle because he's going through some PTSD with being shot on a previous mission, being presumed dead for almost 3 months. It's something different that we've never seen from James Bond before. Usually James Bond, he's always the cool guy who knows exactly what to do and is able to do anything in any movie that he's in. This time around, though, he's weak. He's shot in the shoulder. He doesn't have all of his strength, and he's not the James Bond that we know. Again, touching back on that idea of, okay, are you past your prime? Should you hang it up? Or are you still gonna kind of beat around the bush and stick with it? It's James Bond, he's gonna stick with it. Heck, they made 2 more James Bond movies after this one, where everyone was questioning, hey, you're kind of old here. This one, though, is actually the last James Bond film that I've watched. I haven't seen the newer ones, Spectre, I own it, but I haven't watched it. And then the new one that's supposed to come out this year, No Need to Die. It's calling it No Need to Die. No, it's No Time to Die, right? What a title for a James Bond movie. No Need to Die. That goes against like everything James Bond stands for. He's there to kill these people. Can you imagine the box office of a James Bond movie that promotes, hey, nonviolence. We're not here to shoot or kill anyone. I'm a spy that does no harm. Someone needs to get on that movie and then release it for all the kids on PBS, because that's exactly what it would be. A nice, kid-friendly, educational spy movie. And then this film takes a surprising turn and it becomes basically Home Alone. He goes to the house in Scotland where he grew up, and of course Javier Bardem and all of his goons are coming after him, so they rig the house to explode and shoot gun shells and at certain points, so you set all these traps. I guess this movie is just all over the place for me. It's meta. I don't know where exactly this James Bond fits in the timeline of James Bond, if it's supposed to fit in there at all. We have this strange espionage, former spy who's infiltrating the government and the police and the spy system, and he maps out everything. He wants to be captured because that way he can infiltrate everything, which we saw in The Dark Knight a few years prior to this. And then we have Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone. So there's a weird melding of themes and types of movies that this thing wants to be, which is where I think I start tapping out when it comes to this movie. Is it watchable? Is it entertaining? Oh yes, absolutely. This isn't terrible by any means. It's fine for what it is, but I think that's the problem. I don't think it knows what it is or what it's trying to be. I think the saving grace of this movie is Daniel Craig and also Judi Dench. This is kind of her swan song to her character of M, who she's been M since the Pierce Brosnan days. I think she may be like the longest Bond actor character that we've had. Plus, this movie, you get that stupid Adele song that won the Academy Award for Best Song. Ugh. Not the biggest Adele fan here, just because I don't understand a word that she sings. Her diction is god-awful. It's a Skyfall, and a cranberry, and it's yellow, swimming all together. I have no idea what many of the lyrics are to any of her other songs. Send my love to your moonlight, I'm feeling like a We ain't kids no more. That is all I hear when I listen to her music. But to be fair, I'm terrible with lyrics in general and diction in general. You're talking to the guy who thought Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap was actually Dirty Deeds Thunder Chief. I thought it was a Native American song. Like I said, I think this is a good enough time to have on in the background, but it's not something that I'm gonna, go riding home about. I'm gonna give Skyfall 3 out of 5 Blu-rays.
Not exactly what I had in mind, but not bad.
Alright everyone, now comes my favorite part in my videos where I randomly select which movie I'm going to be watching next, so let's take a look. Star Trek Beyond! That is awesome. I'm actually super pumped for this, because I remember loving this movie. It's the Star Trek movie that no one talks about, and unfortunately no one saw. I remember there was some like writer situation. J.J. Abrams left for creative differences, so this movie had just a ton of dark clouds around it already. But I remember watching it in theaters thinking, this was a freaking awesome movie. It's one of the best Star Trek movies out there. And unfortunately, I have not watched it since it came out, so awesome. I'm so happy to watch that again. So we'll check that out next time. Hey, if any of you have recommendations of films that you want me to review on here, leave a recommendation below this video, go to my Facebook page, my Instagram, or my Twitter, and if I have access to it, I will watch, review it, and give you a shout out on the channel. So guys, have you seen Skyfall? What did you think about it? And where does it fall on your ranking of the James Bond movies out there? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you saw here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and hit that bell so you know the next time I release my next movie review, and send your friends and your family over here that love hearing people talk about movies, bash on movies, and gloat on movies. If they have any recommendations, send them over here and have them hit the subscribe button so we all become one big happy family. So guys, I will see you next time with my review of Star Trek Beyond. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.